Hi, everybody. Welcome to Mark's Backyard Birds. Today, we're talking about storing bird seed and storing bird seed for both the freshness to keep it fresh longer and to also in some tips on how to avoid some of the problems that come with storage mistakes whenever you're trying to keep bird seed. So, hopefully, we will hit on the topic that you are looking for your answers. So, first thing, one of the, of course, most economical ways to buy birdseed is buy large bags. You know, the 50-pound bags in bulk, 40-pound bags in bulk, larger, but even 20-pound bags. But larger birdseed bags are cheaper. I mean, and that's because there's less time and effort and cost involved for a small business like myself to have to break those down into smaller bags. And of course, the cost of the bags and paying people to do that, all that. So that's the reason that larger bags are more economical to buy. You save more money. But for a lot of people, storing those bags is difficult. One is finding enough space to do that in, especially if you live in a smaller place like an apartment or something. It's very, very hard to store 50-pound bags in your apartment. And it's also not very smart to store bird seed inside. So, remember, moisture is typically the number one enemy of seed, especially hulless seed, like buying sunflower chips, peanuts, things that don't have a seed coat on it. Moisture is that much more challenging to deal with those kinds of bird seed. So if you're the first and foremost, say, do not, if you don't have it, if you can avoid it, do not store your bird seed inside during the winter months when it's as cold as it's been lately. Storing it in the garage or even in a basement for you is very tempting, and and at this time of year it can be okay because it's usually really cool and dry places, especially in your garage. If you are storing it and have it near the garage doors where cold air gets under and around, that helps keeps that bird seed and the temperature down in it and keep it very dry. Well, not only does that keep the seed fresh, but it also helps you avoid one of the biggest challenges whenever it comes to storing bird seed, and that are the Mediterranean meal moths or the pantry moths. They got so many different names for them, but these little moths, they lay their eggs in that seed, either in the field or somewhere in the process of transportation and storage and things like that. And these hatch and become the little white caterpillars when the temperatures get consistently over like 70 degrees. So if you are storing the bird seed inside your house, especially if you have it near a heat vent, or even in your garage, if you have these bulk birdseed bags up against a vent that's in your garage blowing out warm air, then that can cause those moths to hatch, which are a very bad problem. Plus, of course, the bird seed ages. Now, aging of bird seed, I get this question a lot. How long should I keep bird seed? Well, the rule is you should not have bird seed in a feeder for longer than a month. Again, moisture is the biggest problem. You shouldn't have it in storage unrefrigerated for longer than 3 months, because that moisture gets in there and it will start to turn bad and it will clump together, and you're going to get it's not going to be good for the birds. And a lot of times you'll see them pick up the seed and throw it, drop it and fly away. And there's lots of different ways to store it. So one of the more common ones are tubs inside, and they're easy to carry, and they're very convenient. But remember, something made of plastic, it doesn't give you any protection really against varmints like mice, raccoons. If you're going to try to store this out on your deck like I do, you're definitely going to want to use things like aluminum trash cans. aluminum trash cans, even with a bungee cord strapped across the lid, is a good way to keep out varmints like raccoons and mice and squirrels. Now, I know some of you guys live in areas where you have bears. Now, bears should be hibernating in the winter months. It shouldn't be a problem, but I know in there's some areas they're not hibernating nearly as long as they used to. And when bears are a problem, I know storing your bird seed outside is a real challenge. And I don't know if you've got indoor space. I've just had too many people that have tried to store their bird seed in their garage or in their basement because they think that's a cool enough place, and they end up having the moth problems. Now, if you do have the moth problems, there are pheromone traps that have a lure in there that it attracts them to them, and there's sticky paper in there so it catches the moths. So there are ways to battle them, but believe me, you don't want these moths inside your house. So if you can, like I said, avoid the heat. Avoid storing in that container, whether it's a plastic container inside your house or just inside the bags you bought the birdseed in, where it's going to get really warm. Try and definitely to avoid that, because the seed will last a lot longer and you will avoid the problem of the moths in the long run. So if you can't do that, if you live in the South where it's humid much of the year, and you don't have prolonged periods of really cold weather, or if you, like I said, if you live in an apartment situation or somewhere where you can't store and buy those big bulk bird seed, consider buying small bags like 5 and 10 pound bags. And these fit, several of these, if you have a variety of seeds you like to use, fit really well in those aluminum trash cans. You can put several bags in one can, and so that works really well. Plus, you rotate, you go through your seed more frequently, thus you're keeping it fresh. So if you buy it from a place like me at the Backyard Bird Center, we are constantly getting in new seed every few days. It isn't like we buy a train load of seed like some of the big places, and their seed is in storage for a long time before you even get it. So the age of that seed may be older, but if you're keeping and rotating your seed like you should, then you'll go through it much quicker and it'll stay fresher. So a couple of things that can also help this. If you have a feeder that can be filled from the bottom, we call it flip to fill. Make sure you're rotating your seed a lot. And that is if you can fill from the bottom, so you turn the feeder upside down, take the bottom off, and pour the bird seed in from there, you're constantly keeping that newer seed at the bottom, and the top, the fresh seed is at the bottom, and the old seeds move to the top, so it rotates through. So keep rotating that seed, and that will keep it being fresh. Now, like my mom, whenever she was feeding her finches, what I would do for her is I would take her a 20-pound bag of fine sunflower chips. And then what we would do is we would break it down into smaller Ziploc bags. And we would fill the Ziploc bags with hers fine sunflower chips. These are mediums. And we zip them up. And then we would put those in the freezer. They can be refrigerated. I know, many of you maybe don't have extra refrigerator space or extra freezer space, but this is a way that you can keep seed a lot longer and not have to worry about the insects. That you don't have to worry about the seed getting clumpy and getting moisture in it. This is really dry and this is really cold, and this is where you can, if you got an outdoor freezer that you keep other stuff in, putting that bird seed in. I know you can't be dumping 3 and 4 50-pound bags in there, but being able to break them down into smaller bags and keeping them in there and just pulling that out when you need it is a great way to rotate your feeders. And don't forget, you don't have to fill a feeder to the top, especially if it's a new feeder or if it's a slow time of year. Remember that one of those first rules was don't keep seed in your bird feeders for longer than a month. Well, one way to make sure that you don't do that is only fill your feeders about half full. And if it's a slow time of year and they're not going through it very rapidly, and so when you have to go throw that out, if it's been in there a month, you want to throw this much out of the bottom, then you can do that. You can throw that out and you haven't lost as much seed. So the rules are, cold, dry places, avoid indoors unless you're because I hear people say, I've got an airtight container. Remember, the eggs of the insects are already in there when you get them. So they're in cornmeal, they're in dog food, they're in all kind of places. So you can get the hatch out. But in birdseed, try not to store it indoors nor in warm places. If you got a good cold garage, that's great. If even if your basement's kept really cool, but the pitfalls of if those moths get in there. So keeping the seed fresh longer, you use some smart rules. Buy smaller bags, rotate it frequently, refrigerate it if you have the ability to do that. But this time of year, in the colder weather, you usually are not faced with a lot of those problems. So it's a great idea for a program. Everybody's always wanting, to maximize their birdseed investment, and buying bigger bags is more cost efficient, but you do have the challenges of storing it the correct way. So great idea for a program. Thanks for that. If you like it, please give us a thumbs up and share it with your friends. If you haven't subscribed, please do. Until next time, let's talk birds.